Has this started since that, or was it before?
No, I started. The first podcast went out the very end of July. I think the 27th of July was like the first podcast, and I'd been recording them for a couple of months prior to that, and I'd been, again, like you, just really wanted to do a podcast. I actually did my first one in 2012, which had this theme music that's on this music now, and it was called the Primate Movement, and it was with my brother. And they were in Thailand, and we did we went in pretty heavy for our first podcast. We did a proper Skype fucking across continents podcast. I've got it somewhere, and I'll probably do something with it one day. But back then, although I was well into music and had all my musical set up, podcasting seemed a little bit more tricky to try and do. I wasn't so au fait with things like, uploading to iTunes and this whole kind of thing. And I was busy with the band and having my kids and stuff like that, so I kind of didn't pursue it. But I was absolutely smitten with the education I was receiving from listening to podcasts. Podcasts kind of took it.
My son is really into podcasts.
Well, that's great news then, because
really into podcasts.
Amongst all of that stuff he's listening to, whether it's the silly, funny stuff, or there'll be stuff in there that comes from.
But he'll be.
There's not this corporate put the telly on adverts, agenda-driven, demographic-driven kind of, shoehorning ideas into people's heads. He's seeking out things that are interesting him.
I think when he finds something, he's going to be very good at it.
He's biding his time, isn't he?
Yeah, hopefully he's.
But yeah, this thing is I love it. Like you, having done bands and music and being creative, and I started to find that when I started to do little things like the logo and doing the artwork and things like that, there's a real creative outlet there. Yeah,
I started writing music because I've always done cover bands, but I started writing music last year, lyrics and melodies, and it's just come really natural.
Excellent.
And I can honestly say, I feel as if it's probably the happiest I've been. It's just brought something else out, because that's another thing I've been doing since the pandemic as well. We've written a couple more songs because our first video was all booked for the 1st of April.
Was that with 40 Miles West?
Yes.
Yeah,
Danny.
Big shout.
And absolutely gutted. The venue was amazing. Everything was amazing. Oh, it was going to be fantastic. So I've had to postpone it. So our music probably would have been coming out around now. Or
so what are you doing? Are you doing like an EP, Lynsey? What's it going to be? Is it kind of 2, 3, 5 tracks?
We don't know really yet what we're gonna do. I would like to get some music out as soon as possible without the video now, and then bring the video in, because realistically, I don't think the video is going to be done for quite a while, with everything going on and the venue that we was using and things like that. So we don't know exactly. We've got to decide on which way we're going to go around that. Yeah.
So it's exciting then. So
it's a learning curve for me. I mean, it's new. I've never done an original project before.
Well, that's what I get from you, and saying to Aidan before you came, when he was asking who was in tonight, I was explaining sort of my history of knowing you, and like I've always been really intrigued from afar by people who kind of just continue to grow and develop.
Oh yeah, well, it's a self-actualized person. It's their basic need.
Yeah, because coming back to the party thing, and in our little town, little city. I know it's amazing. It's difficult. It's difficult to kind of shed your skin and move on a bit. And
it is. And I think really over the years, I've still had that kind of like, well, I'm not really going to fit in there anymore if I do that. But then I've just gone and done it anyway. But now I feel happy with anything that I do. It doesn't bother me at all. And I know now that I can still be with them. I can still be connected to them.
Yeah.
In my family. It's just that sometimes in a bit of a different place.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
Yeah.
I mean, at first, when I kind of moved away from everything, I had to stay away a bit, because if I didn't, I wasn't strong enough to stay where I was.
People don't understand, do they, what's happening? And
why aren't you having a drink? Why aren't you doing this?
Resentful,
why aren't you that? It's like, well, I don't really want one.
Yeah. And it's just too...
because I've got other things. I don't need that.
And it's hard to explain that, because that level of like understanding is not ready to be...
I love life and I
feeling good and being healthy.
Else.
Yeah.
I said to Joss for this pandemic, it was really odd, because a couple of weeks before it actually happened, I said to Joss, I feel a bit weird, funny about going out. And I don't know if I sensed something. And I wasn't going out a lot. And then kind of all this happened. But I thought to myself, I've got everything I need here. We can record whatever we want musically. Apart from we can do the demos. We can't go out and record with the musicians, of course, yet. And, you know, I've got all the books that I've ever bought, and I just got everything there, and I just feel so happy with that.
Well, that's a beautiful place to be, and it's
It
where
is.
we're all striving towards, you know, just to be
free.
Yeah, not to have all the fucking stuff. I mean, I often on the intros to the audio versions of these podcasts is when I have my little cathartic rants, you know, and I find that more and more. I think this pandemic's shown us that again. Chatting to Aidan before the podcast
There's
about
opportunities in it, isn't there?
wild camping recently, simplifying things.
Oh yeah,
Simplifying things.
What's important, what isn't, and you know, at the end of the day, whatever you're left with and whatever you have is what you're meant to have.
Yeah.
You know, and if everything's gone, then maybe that wasn't where you was meant to be.
Totally, and trust.
Even though it's hard.
It's hard to trust that. It's hard to the unknown. Like the Jordan Peterson book, 12 Rules for Life, which I read, that had a big effect on me, and following some of his YouTube stuff. And you know, like everybody, you know, you can't agree with everything, and nothing. You know, but that book had a big impact on me in the sense of like trying to prioritize and take responsibility and not be scared to go into the unknown and give something a try.
Yeah.
Like I said before, open a
It's
door.
like new paths, isn't it?
Yeah,
They've never been trod on before.
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, it's normal to feel anxious, but you just got to kind of
let it be that way.
get through
Because it's that anxiety that if you face it and let it come over you, and you find out that you've got through it and you've conquered it, that's rewarding. That builds character.
Well, it's funny because the closer I've got to my soul, to my true purpose of what I'm meant to be doing, the challenges have got stronger.